everyone, Pineapple here with the next installment of the 13th Doctor Adventures, The Violet Hour by Arafella Marcus. Now last time we had Ride or Die, it had a lot of good content from its peaceful message and strong moments from the cast, and today we have a story with equally, but perhaps even arguably more impactful themes, that while not as intense as warfare, instead concern the matters of broken hearts and longing for those long gone. Will this story stagnate or rise in quality as has been the trend since Return of the Doctor? Let's have a look as we get into the characters. 13 is of course reprised by Jodie Whittaker, good as ever, but much like how Ride or Die allowed for 13's many monologue moments for that story's anti-war sentiment, this story and its creatures, yes, I both mean the alien and Maltravers, allow 13 to instead speak about matters of the heart, getting in some really good empathetic moments, especially in the climax with Miriam. And I really like this side to 13 that the show kinda shot in the foot, as shown by my favourite clip to use to show my distaste for parts of her error.
I'm still quite socially awkward.
And I like that while of course Maltravers isn't forgiven, the emotional focus while he gets his moments as the antagonist mostly relies on Miriam and her bond with her now past sister. So 13 is used just as well as in the last story, but from a very different and refreshing perspective. Yaz is reprised by Mandip Gill, and while not getting any massive moments, is used pretty well in the episode, putting her cop background to good use, with her ability to empathise with Miriam around 13's rough edges, but also in her investigation skills, knowing how to handle the web of time and holding her own handling 3 unconscious bodies, and fending off Maltravers with a clever use of the sonic. And she gets some decent, more light-hearted moments, one I'm sure the fans appreciated that we'll get onto later. Next is the story's pseudo-companion in Miriam, played by Olivia Marcus, the actual one with psychic abilities, while her fakery friend and her sister get targeted by Maltravers, and while I didn't get that into her character by the third act both in writing and performance, I was sold. Now overall I think I was more invested in Maltravers' story with his family, but I can't say she didn't knock it out of the park in performance. Speaking of, Colonel Maltravers, played by David Robb, is the antagonist of the story, and while playing complete snobbish sexist asshole well, his other side is a grieving father and husband willing to tear the world apart to see his family again, hard to hit the balance with. Usually a villain excels as either a bastard or as sympathetic, so the character really stands out, even if Yaz makes him a bitch for a hot second there. As Maltravers' more timid sidekick is Joseph Arkley as Dr. Kidney, the one who made Maltravers' actions possible with his smarts and technology. So while mostly unassuming and timid, sure, Kidney is great in a comedic capacity, but I also think his character added well. He's a massive coward, and having someone ready to flee but mostly subservient, complementing Maltravers' drive, made them work as a duo, and as a character in his own right. You feel sorry for him, but understandably he isn't put in an empathetic light. So not overly complex, but he gets good laughs and fits in the story well. Next is one of the more interesting aspects of the episode, the Eidolon, a creature made of pure Thuron energy, meant to pass harmlessly through dimensions, feeding on people by reminding them of past loved ones. But having split from its pack, it's latched on to the strongest source of these feelings, Maltravers, who will use its energy to rip time and space apart due to his negligence. Once again, this is an idea that really works because like the other characters, it's more than one thing. Sure, the Eidolon fails to really help anyone, but although almost condemning at least London and hijacking Miriam for a bit, it has no animosity. It's not cruel or murderous, it just follows its way of life. And the way it interacts with characters like Miriam and the Doctor are really interesting, so not only is it intriguing as a creature, it does well to add to the overall message of the story. Lastly, it seems the Tourist has returned, the story insinuating that it's been hiding in Miriam for a while, so when the Eidolon sets up in her head, it becomes a battle for dominance. It's not really a character of its own here, but the performance, most likely from Olivia Marcus while in Miriam, was good, and considering the next episode is apparently being set up as majorly about the Tourist, and maybe even Prospero, setting that up well. I like the almost bad wolf or Season 7 Great Intelligence way that this season is being woven together in this arc. As for the story of the episode, we get a neat cold open where Maltravers lures in a one Esther Shine, Miriam's sister, a supposed medium played by Liv Andressier, who we last heard in the Halloween box set, and his experiments killing her, him uncaring and vowing to continue until he finds a genuine psychic psychic for his ends. A pretty strong cold open, both solidifying Maltravers as the villain, but also setting up his want to see his family again and his murderous intent. We come back to 13 and Yaz, surprise surprise, attempting to go literally anywhere else and ending up in London instead. 13 finding her psychic paper hijacked by a message, telling her only Esther shines. Not only freaking out the catcaller they want information from, wow, men really suck in this story, but it's also thought to be a spelling mistake, pointing them towards who we know is now deceased, Esther Shine. Apparently her body having just turned up after a week missing.
Went missing a week or so back, then a few days later her body turns up, not a scratch on her, but dead as you like.
I don't like at all.
Now this is a nice hook into the story, but I also find the idea that something has sent the Doctor a message and it just ends up being filled with typos very funny. They follow the story by heading to the theatre she performed at, overhearing Miriam arguing with another friend and performer, Nellie, played by Anna Critchlow. Miriam afraid that a mysterious him will appear and something bad will happen after her spiritual fakery. Miriam knows there was foul play as Esther is revealed as her sister, so to try and save Nellie, in the middle of the almost obnoxious performance, she starts yelling about fakery, sending Nellie away angry, and the mysterious man slinking away, painting her as a real Sylvia Brown type. Miriam and Yaz lose him, allowing Yaz to do some interrogation, learning that the man had appeared wherever a medium had performed right before disappearing. Meanwhile, 13 gets to their suspect being Kidney, and her interrogation is fun as Kidney is pathetic, and she goes as far as to stick him to the spot by using the Sonic to melt his shoes, very proud of herself. He refuses to give her much, just the name Colonel James Maltravers. Yaz getting to show off her smarts as she researches the cases and Maltravers without setting anything in stone by making sure not to read ahead. Both a good display of her investigative skills and smarts. As they learn Maltravers' motives, but they're found by Miriam, Nellie now missing. Maltravers uncaring if she dies in the experiment when Kidney informs him of his doubts that she could be legit. Miriam meets the duo in a cafe, and after she tells them a little about Esther, 13 quite crassly interrogates her about a slip of the tongue. Miriam having seen an ethereal glow around the corpse when she identified her. 13 thinking that it must be Thuron energy. Tracing the mystery and energy straight to Maltravers, about to use his machine on Nellie, Kidney once again trying to back out, but Maltravers strong-arming him back in. 13 blunders in, shutting off the power before Nellie can be killed, but after some misogyny courtesy of Maltravers, the Thuron energy he has held in his Faraday cage, him oblivious to what it actually holds, sucking 13 and Miriam into its mindscape as Miriam's ability, her being the true medium, lures her in. They wake up in its mindscape lured in by familiar images to Miriam and finding a vision of Esther. Meanwhile in the waking world, Yaz is left with 3 bodies against Travers and Kidney, using Kidney's fear to do her bidding and smartly knocking Maltravers out with an almost kamikaze Sonic. They try to wake the two up from the creature's influence, trying salt, and for 13, True Love's Kiss. Yes, that's right, although the way they say it, it's kind of a reference to Unicorn and the Wasp. The Thasmin kiss that everyone was excited for was here. Now, honestly, I don't care too much. It's not like this is Thasmin's version of Archipelago or something, but the moment doesn't detract from anything, and I'm sure it felt like a blessing to 13's biggest fans. Meanwhile, inside the Mindscape, 13 has the disguise ripped away and meets the Eidolon, which, as I imagine it, is a mix between an Isolus and the Muppets Christmas Carol Ghost of Christmas Past. This Eidolon has separated from its pack, meant to feed off of grief and in return, remind their hosts of the dead. And needing companionship, has stuck with Maltravers, even as his experiments are killing and may end up ripping a hole in the world, as the spirits from the afterlife he's actually seeking are memories revived by the Eidolon. 13 doesn't get through to it, but everyone escapes just as Maltravers wakes up. We find out in subtext that Nellie may have been banging Esther, then giving Miriam a thank you kiss for the rescue. A bit of a messy dynamic there, but with that she heads on home, but the story doesn't halt as the Eidolon has jumped into Miriam, and this causing pain as something had already been possessing her, the tourist already here.
But not for long!
13 yells at it as it calls her a hypocrite, admitting to the psychic message but easily being dispatched by Miriam as she lets the Eidolon in, it immediately running away with her body. Maltravers and Kidney right themselves, and Maltravers, knowing Miriam must have the Eidolon, he waxes about how cool he is and figures out where to head. 13 and Yaz on the same path. The place where Miriam mentioned that she and Esther love to spend time at. Of course, the Eidolon seeking out the grief of Miriam's loss. Maltravis and Kidney beat 13 to Miriam, the experiment starting with some casual sexism, Maltravis ready to go out with a bang. But Yaz cuffs him still, while Kidney is ready to kill Miriam. Well, he suggests it. I don't think in a million years he'd actually be able to do it, so instead he toddles off. Esther materializes for Miriam, and their reunion is pretty well done, emotionally written and performed, but things get a little testy as Miriam brings Maltravis' victims through, and finally his family. But their unresponsiveness finally clues him in, taking away his fight.
Why will they not speak?
They're only memories, James. They're your memories. You see what you saw of them in life.
So many lives burnt through. For ghosts.
Even ghosts need a farewell.
They're already gone. They left me long ago. Or perhaps I left them. Hard to say.
With 13's help, Miriam is able to part with the Eidolon. The sheer despair and loss that the Doctor lives with as she finds joy and happiness despite it gives Miriam the hope to let her sister go, sending the Eidolon on its way. Maltravis is held for the coppers to collect, 13 and Yaz speeding back to the TARDIS, and the episode ends after 13 predictably avoids all of Yaz's questions, casting doubt on whether 13 already knew they were being lured. But with the topic of the tourists coming up, 13 finally decides instead of letting it meet them, it's time to go after it. Now, while I have no idea what a Violet Hour actually is, I guess this is Dark Gallifrey all over again, we had great 13 and Yaz scenes. Our side characters, while not superb, were memorable and well written. Miriam, Maltravis and Kidney all interesting, and the emotional core of the story, while not the most original, was explored well with the Eidolon, most of the characters, especially 13, Miriam and Maltravis, having their positions and woes explored and related well. And even though Yaz and Kidney weren't exactly instrumental to the emotional core, they do get their fair share of things to do, so I think I'll give the 13th Doctor Adventures Episode 5, The Violet Hour by Rafaela Marcus, an 8 out of 10, matching it with Ride or Die as both are quite good in their respective themes, just in different ways. But I think I do prefer this episode's theme of remembering yet moving on to the anti-war stance from last time, but not enough for the rating to jump up a point. Thank you already for watching my review of The Violet Hour. Please like the video if you liked it, comment down below if you wish, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, ring the notification bell so that you're told every single time that I make an upload. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next review. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.